Hello and welcome back to Building on a Budget Models. I'm Thomas, and this is the first part of the Back to the Future Part 2 DeLorean in 1/24 by Aoshima. Now if you saw the unboxing video, you'll know that I've got a light kit for this. So one of the first things I needed to do was to drill a 5mm hole in the bottom. I also need to drill a 3mm hole in the headlights. Now the car in the film actually only has the outside headlights on, so I'm only going to use those. I'm also going to drill holes in the tail lights. I started by doing this just a hole in the centre, but then came back to it later and made these holes a bit larger. It's important to do all this drilling before you do any painting. Now then there's some mould lines which go along the roof line here and down the edge of the bonnet, so I used some fine sanding sticks from UMP to remove those. Some of these bumpers will actually be hidden by some of the time wiring, but it's still important to remove the mould seams. Then there were some 5mm holes that were done into the footwells here for the two lights that illuminate the interior. Here's the bodywork in the plain plastic. Here it is after 2 coats of Tamiya fine grey primer. Here it is after 3 coats of Tamiya silver. Now the base was done in matte black, and then I added some gloss green to some of the kind of hovering parts, and then some silver acrylic to some of the kind of mechanical parts. It's important to do the green before the silver because then you can cover up any of the mistakes with a little bit of extra silver. Found the broad brush was quite good here. This didn't need to be super neat as it was going to be mainly hidden anyway. You could, and I did think about removing some of these green sections and adding in some clear parts to let light shine through the bottom. I didn't feel that it would add enough to warrant the effort. Now then, the bodywork needs a bit of masking here and there. This front section here around the kind of headlights, I found that kind of an iron colour was the best for it, rather than the matte grey suggested by the instructions. So this is Revell iron, and then I used the same colour around the tail lights. Then used some matte black on the radiator grille and around the bumpers, making sure to leave the headlights bare. Then there's a few other matte black sections, such as these vents on the side of the car. I pushed into the kind of moulded detail with a cocktail stick, used a fine new craft blade to cut it out. Tweezers are very useful here to remove the excess tape. Pushed it into place with a cotton bud and then used a broad brush with the same matte black paint from Revell. Did the same here with this vent. On the real car, a window would actually be on this section here. This being a kind of late 70s, early 80s design, it's got lots of straight edges, which makes masking and painting these parts, such as the window trim, really nice and easy. The rear bumper, including the moulded DeLorean writing, all needs to be in matte black. Now for these side markers here, there are orange and red ones, orange at the front, red at the back. I used some Tamiya clear orange over the silver of the bodywork, which worked really well, and a little bit of black at the edges. Pretty happy with that effect. As the acrylic scratches off really easily, leaving the nice lacquer paint underneath, I used a craft blade to remove the paint from the DMC logo on the grille. Then there's wiring detail which goes down the sides. You could remove this and then add real wire should you want to. I chose to leave it though. Initially I painted it using a very fine brush with some semi-gloss black. I found a magnifying tool very useful for these kind of fine details. When the black had all cured, I then went over with a little bit of satin yellow. I tried not to paint over the clips that hold the wire in place to leave those silver, but as this is acrylic, I found that I could scratch paint off those very easily later on. Then finally I went over with some matte red. Found that this wasn't a super neat job, but it was pretty good given the circumstances. As I said before, if you wanted to, you could remove these details and add in your own real wires. Then went back with a cocktail stick and removed some of the excess, including on the clips, leaving the silver paint underneath. Again, using a magnifying tool was really useful to get the details really nice and crisp. Pretty happy with how that looks. I then went over these iron sections at the front and the rear with a bit of a gloss coat, as that's how it seemed to be on the real one that I saw at the British Motor Museum. Now the headlights need to have a little black trim around the edge. They were then glued in place with some Revell contact clear. Now the tail lights, I chose to use Sharpie to colour those in rather than the decals provided. The backs are pretty flat, so that's pretty easy to do that. The outside corners of them orange, the centre section in red, and leave the inner section clear. I then went over the front of the kind of rubber trim, which is raised in black Sharpie to make it look like it's got the rubber trim. And then the back, I painted the rear of the orange and silver in silver. There's a few parts here which need to be painted silver, then some colours on the buttons and some decals, and then the tail lights can be glued into place as well. Again, I used contact clear to glue these into place. Pretty happy with that. There's some little tabs to help you position the window here in the right place. I used some foam safe super glue. So there we have it for this part of the video. Here's how it all looks from the outside. Really look forward to showing you how I add the wires for the lights in the next section, and then eventually putting it all together and showing it all lit up. Thanks a lot for watching. Please do like, share and subscribe, leave a comment down below, and I'll see you soon.